Welcome back to Blurred Summits. Today we have Immad Nayeem with us as a special guest. We are going to do an interview with Immad. Today we're going to be talking about pursuing your passions, battling challenging identities, and seeing the insights that Immad can give for us today. So Immad, what are you kind of up to nowadays?
So I have a couple things going on right now.
Mm.
We're doing this Blurred Summits podcast.
Yeah.
It's crazy. We started back in close to the tail end of 2021,
Mm-hmm.
and it's crazy that we've kept it going. School wise, I'm currently going back to school full time, even though through this pandemic, because I am training to be a paramedic.
Yeah.
And so with that, obviously you can't really do much online.
Yeah.
And so, but my schedule is kind of crazy though. They said starting Friday, every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we are going to be on campus 8 a.m. to 5 p.m.
Damn.
Oh, full day things.
Yeah, full day things, bro. It's 9 hours.
Yeah.
Probably get a break in the middle for lunch, but even then.
And you're in the same classroom with that too, hey?
Yeah, same people.
Oh, that's always
Same
good.
people.
You don't
Yeah,
get with most uni stuff. It's always all these different people, right?
Yeah, and
That's
it's crazy.
crazy.
My class size are way smaller too.
That's a throwback to high school, right? Yeah.
It's 12 people.
Oh, that's so small.
12 people?
Yeah.
That's tiny.
That's
So-
crazy small.
Yeah, and you
Damn.
you kind of get to know everyone on a personal level because you're putting swabs in their mouth and
Oh my
because
god.
we're practicing everything.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so, but I don't know. I really like it. I feel like university. I did go to university a while back
Mhm.
after I transferred, but we can talk about that later. But what I found with university was, sure, you're friends with the few people that you do know,
Mhm.
and sure you'll make time to get to know them, but it's really hard to meet new people or get to know them well. But with the paramedic programs, there's only 12 people in your class.
Mm.
It's quite different.
Yeah. So with these things, what made you choose to pursue them? With going into being a paramedic and even Blurred Summits here.
With being a paramedic, so I'm 20 now.
Yeah.
And when I was just graduating high school, I actually want isn't the right word, but I thought going into psychology was right for me.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the class in high school. There's a psychology class that we had. And I have nothing against psychology.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I did it for, 2 semesters. I did it for a full year. And I just felt like I didn't see myself going anywhere with it, right? And it's obviously, it's meant for different people.
Mhm.
It was, I love learning about the psychology tips, mental health. I really like being aware of all that stuff.
Yeah.
But I thought, I want to do something more hands-on.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to stay in the medical field, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
But I wanted to do something more hands-on, and there's obviously the side of what can you get paid for, right? And so I chose. You know what? I'm gonna become paramedic.
How did
And
you
so-
find paramedic things? You search it up on the internet. How did you come across it?
I don't know. So this is something that I was thinking about. I'd always as a kid, anytime I was in the ER, right? I haven't gone that much, thank God. But anytime I've seen a paramedic, I was like, wow, that's something cool that they do. It'd be cool to do that. But I never thought oh, I might actually be pursuing this. In the as most kids, they'll see race car drivers or they'll see firemen, police, right? For a lot of kids, they're like, oh, that's cool what they do. It'd be cool to do that, but they don't really think about it as a career path.
Mm.
Yeah.
Truly. And I was in the same boat because I never thought, my parents always wanted me to go to university. Even though, paramedic is still a respectable job,
Yeah.
From the brown community that I'm from,
Yeah.
It's kind of a different route than what
Yeah,
most people
exactly,
kind of
right?
would attribute
my
to.
dad's like, why
that.
don't you just become a doctor? When I told him, he's
Yeah.
just go to med school, right? So it was definitely a tough conversation to have with my parents. But we're here.
Yeah, so how long is paramedics? Is it 2 years?
So it's supposed to be 2 years pre-COVID.
Yeah.
But with COVID, it got pushed to 3 years because there was only so much they could teach online.
Yeah.
But I'm glad I'm going back. Since January, I've had a lot more stuff to do.
Mm-hmm.
But from Friday, I think March 26th is when we go back full time. And
Yeah.
the reason why we have so many classes is there's a lot to catch up on.
Yeah.
And so, but hopefully next year, September to April of next year should be my last year.
Okay.
And
yeah.
then hopefully get a job from there.
So then before this, you only had the one semester of in person, and then COVID hit, right?
Yeah. So
And that threw a whole extra year
yeah,
into the loop
threw
of
a
that.
whole extra year, and so that was, I had to find things to do.
Hey, at least you'll be extra trained then with the one extra year, right? You're like, hey, look, I did an extra year of school. Get me out there.
So when you kind of had that conversation with your parents, how did that go?
So I want to put this tastefully, but how it went was, I was, again, like I'd already done 2 semesters, right? And so, and also I didn't take student loans. So I wasn't like locked into it. And so my dad was paying for it. Like I'm super grateful. Like, right. And like right now he's about paying for like half of it. I'm paying for half of it. And, I just wanted to go that route. Like I can't take student loans. I just wanted to go that route just to be a lot more responsible for like the money I'm making. It's not just all being thrown away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, but I was thinking that he would be a lot more pissed about the money.
Because you like threw away a year, right?
Right, like it
Yeah.
was like $5,000, like
Yeah, yeah.
So right, like or like $5,000 to $6,000, and I thought that's what he would be more pissed about. But he was more pissed that like I still hadn't figured out what I was doing, even though like all his friends, their kids have life figured out. Even though in reality,
Yeah.
no one does. Like
Yeah.
right, like
Yeah.
everyone's like, but to our parents, they're giving you advice that they wanted when they were our age.
Yeah.
Because at their time, going to university was the only way to get a job, right? And so, and going to college or like a trade school, because like the school I go to is SAIT, and like it's a polytechnic school,
Yeah.
right? So it's not exactly university. And my dad was always like, "Oh, you're gonna end up at SAIT." Like, like if you don't really study, it's like if you don't study,
He's like, I bet you wish you didn't make those jokes now.
right? So
funny.
there's like another university here. It's called Mount Royal. It's like it's a great university, right? But to like our parents and everything, it's not like University of Calgary, like the main university here. And he always told me, he's like, if you don't study, you're gonna end up at SAIT. You're gonna end up at Mount Royal. And so I was at U of C. I did psychology, but like I wasn't happy, man. And like like it's one thing to not be happy what you're doing and then go to class that's all about mental like health and mental awareness, right? And so I'm glad I did psychology, because I feel like if I was in any other class, I would have neglected those feelings and just kept doing what I was doing, right? Because so that in a way that really helped, right? And like I'm a lot more aware now of like people and how they act and how, like, even though I only did 1 year, I learned a lot. So I don't think I wasted that year, right? But telling my dad was, my dad was in the living room one day, my mom was there. I was like, you know what, I don't want to do this, right? And at first he was just like, no, like you're gonna keep going to university. Right? It was like 2 weeks, like I just like I had no idea what I was gonna do, like and so it was like 2 weeks of my dad being like, no, you're just. And by the way, this is August. I had this conversation in August.
August after first year?
August after first year.
Yeah.
And so I'm supposed to be going back to university, right? And fees are due in like a week or whatever.
Yeah.
And so, like, because I kept pushing it this whole summer. Like, the whole summer, I told all my friends.
Yeah, so at that point, had you applied to SAIT?
Yeah, I'd already applied to
So
SAIT. I'd already gotten in.
Yeah.
So you're just now having to make up the decision.
Exactly, right? And I told all my friends. I remember one of my friends asking my brother, because, like, I was with my brother one time. Yeah. My brother's, like, 10. And my brother has no idea. He's like, oh, so your brother's gonna be a paramedic, right? And my brother's like, because my brother's younger than me, he's like, no, he's gonna be a psychologist. Like, what?
Yeah.
And then my friend just looked at me, and I'm like, oh, don't worry, he doesn't know yet. And
Oh my god.
but
That's
then,
so funny.
But like 2 weeks after, my dad said totally no. Yeah. I was like, look, like this is what I really want to do, and like look, because to our parents, like job security is like the biggest thing, right? And so I went at it with more like like job security, like this, like paramedics in Alberta are like the highest paid,
and they're in high demand.
They're in high demand, especially now, like after COVID, right? And so, what's it called? And like the starting salary, you make a lot more because of overtime and right. So and like working weekends, late nights, and depends where you work, right? But my dad, like now he had like 2 different contentions. He's like he didn't know anyone that had done the program, right? And also he's like, why do you want to go into a job that's so stressful? Like, he's like, why would you want to put yourself through that, right? And for me, I kind of told him that, okay, look, I'll do this, and if I still don't want to keep doing this, I can transfer my credits and go to med school afterwards, right? And so that was kind of one way I convinced him. And also I told him, like, that's still on the table. I haven't taken that off the table. Like, it's still in consideration. Because, like, after I'm done, like, so I told you there's 2 years.
Yeah.
There's also 2 more years you can do to become a more advanced paramedic.
Okay.
And I plan on doing that.
Yeah.
But once you do that, you can transfer your credits to university and just do a year at university and go to med school.
Okay.
But look, like, I don't want to live my whole life regretting not doing something I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm gonna go this route, see what it brings. Right. And also kind of helped that my uncle was a ER surgeon.
Oh.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. So he's in Philadelphia, and he's an ER surgeon. And so my dad kind of called him, like, he's my dad's brother, and he called him. He's like, okay, you know, talk to him, see what his plan is, right? Because he understands more. So I had a conversation with my uncle, and that's kind of how I convinced my dad.
Was there a tipping point for you? Like, when you were in university, there was, like, just a point where you were like, I'm out. You know what I'm saying? Was there a tipping point for you, or was it kind of just this, like, gradual creep?
I feel like when you don't want to be doing what you want to, like, what you're studying, you just don't have the same passion into studying. Right?
How quick did you find out? Like, into your first year? Was it like a week after, 2 weeks? Like, when did it really hit you that you were like, you know what, this is actually not for me?
Like, first semester, I was kind of going with the flow like everyone else, right? Like, even people that want to do what they're doing, I feel like they're all just kind of going with the flow. Like, just the first few months, right?
Yeah.
Like, the first semester. But it was second semester where I was like, you know, like, I genuinely don't like these classes. And, like, it's not that I didn't like the psych. It was, like, more like the science classes, and I just didn't see myself, like, being more of an academic person than like I'm still studying, like, the sciences and anatomy and physiology and everything, like, with paramedic, but there's a whole different mindset when you actually want to be studying it. And so I think it was second semester where it was like the weeks just kept dragging on, and, you know, all my friends around me, like, kind of had, like, figured out, and I still didn't. And so, and there was also a class I had to retake. There's a class Bio 241. I had to retake that class because I didn't do so well, right? And so, you know, every day I was in that class, I was like, what the heck, man? What am I doing with my life? I have to retake this class. You know, the second time I did okay. Like, I didn't have to retake it, but, you know, it still wasn't to the level of someone who would enjoy the class.
Yeah.
And so that class was also, like, a big thing, is like, man, I don't want to be in university, like, for 5 years, 6 years, just retaking classes that, you know, I didn't put the effort into or had the passion for. So that was also a big tipping point.
So do you think a lot of this is like a flaw with the university system itself, where they're forcing people to make their decisions up, like, before they even really know what they want to do?
I think it's more of a flaw with high school systems. Like, I feel like university is already, like, an institution, and it's just taking kids in.
Yeah.
Right? But high schools are also pushing this idea that you got to get out of here. And when you get out of here,
That's right.
you better be in university.
Or was it our high school itself, or do you think it's all high schools?
No, I feel like it's especially our high school. Like, we went to Churchill, and our high school is a lot like.
It's pretty toxic. It was pretty toxic.
Pretty toxic.
But I think maybe I think that narrative is still, maybe it was really pushed aggressively in our high school, but I think that narrative still is intertwined within all high schools or any, like, institutional education systems, where it's like, even if you're going to a bad high school, the successful students go to university. The unsuccessful ones don't, right? So there's still that, like, after high school, the success story is to go on to post-secondary education, right?
Yeah. And so, I feel like our school is a bit more toxic than the average high school. But, like, at the same time, like, I do think it's like, it needs to be talked a lot more. Like, you know, like, we have this career and life skills management class.
That class is so
bad. That class, it's called COM, and it's like a mandatory class everyone has to take. And I feel like that class could be a lot more useful if they actually had you genuinely, you know, think about it, right? You don't even, because honestly, with me going to paramedic, it was just me being honest with myself.
Yeah.
Right? I had someone who told me, because he saw, like, I wasn't thriving with and he told me, he's like, dude, you gotta write down what are your values.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, what do you want to be doing? Like, and it's not like, oh, I want to be a doctor. It's like, do you want to help people? And why do you want to help people? Right? It's perfectly fine. Like, if you want to get a job that's not for, like, not specifically helping people in, like, more of a medical way, maybe you want to help people financially. So you got to figure out how you want to help people, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can become, like, whatever. Like, there needs to be purpose in what you're doing. Right? And with me, like, especially that first semester, I kept telling myself I was going to be a psychologist and I was going to help people mentally, but I wasn't prepared for, like, the academic workload that it brought.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do something more hands-on. And that was just me being honest with myself.
So when you wrote down on that list of like your values, what was on that list?
On that list was, I wrote it a long time ago, but the main thing was I wanted, like, I remember, like, I just wrote a sentence at the end of it. Like, I was just brainstorming things that I wanted in my life. Like, I wanted to be content at the end of the day. And content is different from happy. Like, being content is different from being happy.
Yeah.
Right? Because content is whatever happens, like, you're happy, but you're also, you're okay with bad things happen. Right? Like,
Yeah.
Right? Like, you can get through the day.
Yeah.
Right?
You're satisfied.
Yeah, exactly. You're satisfied. Right? And so for me, I kind of embraced, like, I embraced the mindset of just being grateful for the things I have. Right? Because I kept, I feel like we're always chasing things that we don't have.
Yeah.
And so at the end of that, on that paper, I remember writing that I want to help people who are going through, like, the most tough time in their life. Right? And so for me, like, and I always wanted to be a paramedic. Right? And so, it kind of worked out. Right?
Yeah.
The stars kind of aligned.
So if you were to write that list again today, would it be similar? Would the things on it today be almost the same as they were when you wrote it 2 years ago now?
I think they would be, because I've kind of gone down that path more. If there's anything else I would really write down, just trying to think. I feel like it would be like being more grateful, like spending more time with your family. And this is something I wasn't really doing. Because, like, I have a little brother, I have a younger sister as well, and I have two parents. But, like, when you're in university, you're, like, spending so much time at university, then, like, on the weekends you're hanging out with your friends.
Yeah.
Kind of neglect your family. And I think that's also why that conversation with my dad was that hard, was because, that relationship wasn't in the best shape. But, like, I've worked on that relationship, and especially with COVID, everyone being at home.
Yeah.
I feel like the biggest blessing that came out of that was, spending more time with your family. Yeah. And just being able to do more things with your family. So I think that's something, like, I would have told myself back then, this is what, almost 2 years ago now?
Yeah.
That spend more time, like, be more grateful for your family and spend more time with them, right? Because you only have so much time with them. But that's what I would have wrote.
Is there something on that list that you had back then that you valued, but you don't value it anymore now?
A big thing on that list was job security, like, not jobs, making enough money to survive.
So financial security.
Like, financial security, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And honestly, money comes and goes. Like, I thought of money as, like, an end goal, right? And not as money as a tool.
It's like a byproduct of what it is.
Right? And so I was really thinking of money as, like, the destination. I was thinking, once I'm making like $100K a year, that's when I made it.
You're good.
Right? That's when I made it. Right? But my mentality on money now is, and also I feel like I also have that mindset because my dad, our parents, especially parents of immigrant backgrounds, right? They risked everything to come here. Yeah. And when they come here, money's everything, right?
Yeah.
And so we kind of have that mindset going into it. I'm really glad, like, our family, they're doing well and everything, like, financially. But at the same time, like, it was a big thing, like, especially, I was like, when I talk to my dad, it has to be something that makes me financially set.
Yeah.
Right? And so, now, like, I'm less about the money and more about, as long as, like, you're doing something you really want to do, you'll find a way to do it. Like, find a way to make money.
Yeah.
Right? And whether that be, like, and that's super true, like, nowadays, like, you see people making crazy amounts of money doing the craziest things, right? Like, if you told the guy who started Khan Academy that he'd be making so much money off of YouTube,
Yeah.
right? Now, right?
That's true.
He would have said you're crazy, right? And so, and you know, like a lot of people donate to his foundation and everything because people believe in the cause. You know, people do understand that, you know, the schooling system needs to be revamped, right? Because people would have told him, like, if when he started back in like 2007 or whatever, people would have told him, actually, I'm not sure what the date is, but like I'm saying, around that time is like when I think they first, you know, started. People would have told him, you know, like kids can just go to school, they have tutors, right? What are you doing? What are you wasting your time?
Yeah.
Right? And so if you truly want to do something, you'll find a way to make money off of it. And so, and, you know, for me, like paramedic kind of worked out, but, you know, most paramedics, they're not paramedics for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
So, you know, going forward, I feel like if I'm just doing something that I really want to do, like after, you know, while being a paramedic and stuff, I'll find a way to be financially set after that as well.
So do you think it's important for people to follow their passion more so than it is following like the money, I guess is the way to put it, right?
I think you need to be balanced. Like, I'm not saying go all in on your passion, but I'm saying if you value money as an end goal, then you need to value it less. Like, you should look at money as a tool. Like, money is a tool to get you money is a tool to get you to places, right? To meet new people, to gain different experiences, right? That's what money should be looked at as, not as, you know, once I'm making 100 grand a year, I made it 120, 150, right? And so I feel like that's the mentality change that needs to happen.
So, like, what is a passion? You know, like, what is it? It's like follow our passions. How do you know that being a paramedic is your passion? How did you know that psychology wasn't your passion? Like, how can we know these things?
I'm sure there's like a psychological definition for it, but like for me, passion is something that gets you out of the bed in the morning. So, you know, like I was always late to class when I was in psychology because I didn't want to be going to class, you know, but like with paramedic, I'm usually not late because, you know, I genuinely want to be there. Right. And so, and I feel like, you know, you see this in high school too, like the kids that take the class seriously, they'll wake up early to be there at tutorial.
Yeah.
Right. Or like tutorials, like when you go and you get extra time with the teacher or whatever. Right. So when you have a passion for something, it's something that you care about enough that you're going to wake up for it. Like, it's what wakes you up in the morning.
Yeah.
And that's what I think a passion is. Like, at least to me.
Interesting.
So apart from like the educational passions, what other things would you say you're passionate about?
I have, so I'm Muslim, and at the local mosque, I have a junior high, I have a group of junior high kids, and it's called a halaqa, or like a youth group.
Okay.
Right. And so, you know, we talk about religion, but I think the more important thing is the reason why I want to do that is, you know, growing up, I feel like a lot of kids who come from an immigrant background, they have like these two clashing identities.
Yeah.
Right. So they have, you know, religion might play a part of it, culture might play a part of it, parents play a part of it, right? And so they have all these different things. You know, society here is a lot different from society back home that our parents are used to, right? And so there's a bunch of clashing ideas, especially ideals, right? And so, you know, I wanted to, you know, start this youth group because, you know, I'm 20 years old, these guys in junior high. I wanted to show them, hey, look, you know, you can be someone who is giving back to this society in like, you know, a secular way, but you can also be someone who's, you know, a good Muslim, right? And so I just want to be there as like a role model for these guys.
Okay.
Right. And so, you know, we do talk about a few things in religion, but I also, you know, I try to focus on just values, like with these guys, right? You know, when we first started this group, you know, a lot of them didn't know each other, right? And, you know, when kids don't know each other, especially in junior high, you either make fun of someone to get closer with someone else, right?
Yeah.
And so there was a bit of bullying that was going on, right? But, you know, now, like thank God, like we don't have that problem anymore. You know, they're a tight-knit group now. I've been with them for like 2 years now, right? Or like a year and a half now. And, you know, some of them, they play Fortnite together, right? And so that's it's nice to see. Like, I'm not, you know, I play Fortnite with them too sometimes. And I think like with kids who are going through like, you know, an identity crisis, right? Because like when you're here, everyone tells you, oh, you're Pakistani or you're Indian or you're Palestinian or whatever, right? But when you go back home, everyone's like, "Oh, you're Canadian. You're from Canada."
Yeah.
Right. And so, as immigrant kids, we usually go back home like every couple years, right? Because that's where our family's from. And so you have like this these clashing identities, right? And your parents don't, like, for most of these kids, their parents have no idea who they are, right? Or like, just with kids that age, they just need role models. And it takes people like us to get down to their level. And so that's also something that I really like to do in my free time. And, I do a couple workshops for them here and there, right? But the biggest thing is, just being a good role model for them and showing them that there's someone like them who went through kind of the same struggles, even though they have different struggles than we do now.
Yeah.
Right. But someone went through similar struggles that can relate to them, at least more than their parents can. And, when their parents have any issues or anything, like parents want to talk about something, they'll just come to me. I'm like very close to their parents. I have like a WhatsApp group chat with their parents, and I have like a Discord server with the kids. Right. So, anytime, the parents have like, "Oh, can you talk about this with our kids?" Because they don't know how to bring it up. Or if the kids want to talk about something with their parents, like I'm like a good bridge there.
Yeah.
Right? So kids just need a good role model, man.
Do you think that there's like responsibility attached to our passions? You know what I'm saying? Like, even though you're passionate about teaching or being a role model to these kids, do you feel that maybe sometimes the thing that is driving you out of your bed in the morning is a sense of responsibility to them?
100%. Like, I feel like what makes a passion like a part of a passion, just like you said, is part of the responsibility. And the responsibility might be to yourself, it might be to others. Like, for example, going to school, that's responsibility on yourself, right? Like, if I don't go to school, like if I don't go to show up to class on time, I am not being the best person that I can be for me, right? Like, I'm harming myself, right? I'm putting myself back a year, or like if you fail a class, you're putting yourself back a class, you have to retake the class, right? And when it comes to responsibilities for others, right, in the same way, you gotta, just like you have self-respect for yourself, you gotta respect others and their time, right? So, and that doesn't mean that you're always like super motivating or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Because like with these kids, a lot of the time it's just banter, playing basketball, right?
Yeah.
So as long as there can be a balance between showing them a good role model and coming down to their level, then I think you've achieved like a good sense of like that's a responsibility that should be on your shoulders.
Yeah. Yeah, there's like there's a thing where it's not, like you said, it's not sometimes the most, when you're trying to be inspirational or motivational, like trying to give these kids the best life lesson ever, like maybe that's not the thing that sticks with them. Maybe there's just like a moment that you don't even really recognize. Maybe you're playing basketball, you're playing Fortnite, whatever. You said something, you did something, and that's the thing that sticks with them. That's the thing that impacts them, right?
Yeah, like the little things.
Yeah.
Because like everyone can try and be like that passion, like give them the speeches and things like that, right? But it's the little things that you do subconsciously that they pick up on and realize how important those things are.
Yeah. And the cool thing about like playing basketball with them is not all of them are like, when I first met them, not all of them like playing basketball.
Yeah.
Right. And so it was like super, what's the word? Like you have to, like even the kids that are kind of sitting off on the side, you have to kind of include them. Right? You can't just, here's like a chessboard, you guys can play chess if you don't want to, right? Like when you're doing group activities, it's important. And, I never thought like how difficult this is for like gym teachers, right? Like this is something that they have on their shoulders is, making sure every kid feels included. Right. And like now, like the kids who before, like they didn't really want to play basketball. Like I had one kid, he lived pretty close to the mosque. So he would like because we play basketball at the end. He's like, I'm just going to walk home now. And like at the start, I let him do that. I'm like, but as time went on, he wanted to join in.
Yeah.
Right. And like now, like it's not like a super sweaty like group of kids. Like some of them are really good. Don't get me wrong. But like we're more like we all understand we're here to have fun, right? And so, yeah. I'm sorry. What was the question? What was the question you asked?
No, it's just like the small things that we do.
Yeah. So the small, I think one thing there was making sure every kid feels valued, and I think they will really appreciate that. in the long run.
Absolutely. Do you think passions change? Are you ever gonna? Do you think that there could be the day where being a paramedic is no longer the thing that you want to do?
Or even vice versa, where you've had a passion in the past and it's no longer a passion of yours.
I think when you're honest with yourself, passions don't change, they evolve. So like for example, I thought being a psychologist was my passion, but I wasn't being honest with myself, right? So when you figure out who you are, or like when you really think about it, right? Like I still don't know like 100% like who I am, but like I've thought about it, right? Like I've thought about it. I've probably thought about it more like than the average person my age, right? And so when you really think about it, when you're honest with yourself, I think passions will evolve, right? Like maybe I'll be a paramedic, and maybe in the future, I'm helping people in another way.
So what's stopping us from being honest with ourselves?
I think just taking a break and really just putting in the time to think about it, right? Like I feel like we get so caught up in like the hustle and bustle of life.
Yeah.
That we're going from this class to that class to meeting this person to going home to then doing the same thing. And we get so caught up in the routine that you just don't take the time out for yourself that I think is necessary to be honest with yourself.
And again, that ties back into the high school thing, right? Where it's always super busy and you're always going. So then you don't have the opportunity to step back and kind of
Okay, so let's say I step back. So, I'm in the hustle and bustle, and one day I'm like, okay, time to step back. So I step back, I take a seat. What do I do? So now I've taken a step back. What do I ask myself a question? Do I do a list of values like you said? Like, what do I do now? I've taken a step back.
It's different for everyone. It's obviously different for everyone, but I think writing stuff down, like just being honest, like I think everyone needs to write down like what they want in life, and like just more like not goals but more feelings. Like I want to feel fulfilled with what I do, right? And I remember that's something I wrote down.
That's a good one, bro. That's a really good one.
Yeah.
Wow.
So write down just feelings that you want to have like 5 years from now, 10 years from now, right? And so like I remember that like at one point I wrote like a 20-year plan of my life.
Yeah.
Like obviously things change, right? But at least I had that down to the point where, even if things change, like I have a general idea where my life's going, right? And so just write down how you want to feel. And then after that, you need to work backwards. Like you need to be like, okay, whether, you can still be going to school for whatever you're doing, right? I'm not saying like your job has to be the thing that gives you those feelings, but you better be working on things that will help you feel that way.
Yeah.
Right? Like you can be a full-time student who maybe you really enjoy doing comp sci, but you also, like you enjoy coding and everything, but you also want to, help kids, right? Maybe that's something you want to do. So maybe you start doing tutoring on the side, or you start volunteering in places like with the YMCA or like with the city or whatever, where you can start giving back in those ways.
Yeah.
Right?
That's good.
Right? So you need to write down how you want to feel. Like I feel like everyone talks about who you want to be in 10 years, but they never talk about how you want to feel in 10 years.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's how you're going to be honest with yourself.
So through after writing it down, then you're able to go work backwards and understand, okay, these are the kind of the job fields I can go into based on my beliefs, and kind of narrow it down that way, or? Yeah,
that's kind of what I did. For me, like there was also, I was at this event and I was in the parking lot because I was helping out with like the parking control. Like I was a volunteer there, and I remember when I was helping out, this is as I was doing these things, like I was just being honest with myself. I wrote these things down, and I hadn't come down to paramedic yet, right? And so for me, I was more honest with myself. And then there was a lady, and she passed out on the, on the sidewalk. And I remember she passes out, and like everyone's like going crazy. I remember my friend, he was there with me, and his dad's a doctor, so he runs inside to go get his dad. But in the moment of it, like everyone's like, "What do we do?" Like everyone's going crazy, right? But like thank God it wasn't that bad, right? Like she was able to. I can't remember what it was, but the point is, I kind of stood back. Like I wasn't even the one who called 911. I kind of took a step back and I was like, wow, life just moves on. Like when like a crazy thing happens, everyone just goes into it and like just moves on, like and starts doing what they can, right? Yeah. And then these paramedics show up, and then they kind of calm down the situation. And I was like, that's something I want to do. I want to be able to like take a crazy crowd, like a crazy situation, and break it down. And I was like, I can get paid for this. It's something I've always like. I've seen paramedics as a kid, and I was like, that would be cool. But now I want to take that more seriously, and also, I will be fulfilled doing this. Right? Like obviously, the negative is that it's going to be a lot of stress. But if you can have, like for me, like I have this mindset that whatever, and this is a very hard mindset to have, but whatever is meant for you will come to you, and whatever isn't meant for you, like it's all with destiny, it isn't going to come to you. Right? So, like if you're driving, you're early at the bus, but you miss the bus or whatever, right? That bus wasn't meant for you, right?
Yeah.
Like what if that bus gets into a car crash, right? So, I feel like if I have that mentality, it'll minimize a lot of the stress, right? But, that's kind of the mentality I have going into paramedic, like paramedicine and everything.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I like that question. Are you fulfilled? Because then that's like a really good question, like in the moment to ask yourself. Let's say you were in psychology, like I want to feel fulfilled. And then you kind of probably took a look around and you were like, well, I don't feel fulfilled right now.
Like what makes you fulfilled, right? Like
right?
You ask that question.
And it doesn't seem like the path that I'm on right now is going to lead me to that feeling. So that's an indicator that I should change. But do you think that you can avoid going into psychology? Do you see what I'm saying? Like for people in the future, you like to give them advice, like don't do what I did kind of thing, right? Like figure out your passions, pursue what you want, this kind of stuff. But do you think that there is an element of you just have to go through it? You just have to experience that feeling of being unfulfilled in order to change? Or do you think it can be avoided?
I don't think, like, everyone's got their own journey and everyone's got their own path and everything. You can give advice to someone and they know you're right, but at the end of the day, they still go through with it, but they only learn after they mess up.
Yeah.
Right? And, like, for example, if I was in high school and someone told me to calm down and write down what I want to do,
yeah,
I don't think I would have because, I was too busy with everything, right? And the only reason, like I remember hearing this quote, it's like seeds grow in darkness. There's like two other things, but basically if you're ever going through like moments of darkness, that's a moment of growth, right? Or like diamonds only form under pressure, right?
Yeah.
So if you're going through like a tough time, right, then that is a moment of growth for you, right? So I don't think I can tell people and they'll avoid doing what I did unless they, like, you have to go through an experience, in my opinion. Like I can tell someone, but until they internalize that, and I feel like experiences are what internalize those feelings, right? And so until someone can internalize that, like I remember my dad always telling me when I was in high school, he's like, I can tell you to study all you want, right? But if you personally don't want to study, then you're never going to study, right? So the whole idea of like you won't take something seriously until you actually want to.
Yeah.
Right. And I think I can't tell someone, like I'll tell someone my experience, right? Maybe someone listening to this podcast, they'll be like, I don't like what I'm doing, and just write down what is going to make you fulfilled, right? And the feelings that you want to have attached to that, and how you can go about doing that.
I think the tough thing is, like, people don't necessarily want to hear things from people sometimes. Yeah. So they always want to do what they feel is best for themselves, right? Like even in like relationships and all this other thing, it's the same thing where an outside person will say, hey, this is maybe a suggestion so you can be more aware of what's going on, but you'll just completely block it out, right? That's the same thing what you're saying with kind of like life experiences, where until they really take it upon themselves to understand what's going on, nothing's going to change, right?
Yeah, I remember Abdul telling me one time about like the bunny.
Yeah.
You remember that?
Yeah, I remember the bunny. Yeah, the analogy of the bunny, I feel like maybe we might have mentioned it on the podcast before, but basically it says A little girl went to the store. She bought her little bunny, right? She went to the pet store. She bought a bunny. She loves this bunny so much. It's like the most precious bunny. It's white. It's fluffy. It's everything that she's ever wanted. So on the car ride home, she is hugging this bunny, out of love, She just loves this bunny so much, and she hugs it so tightly that she kills the bunny, right? And the point of the story, or the point of the little, I don't know, story, I guess, is that oftentimes the things that we want, we hug them so tightly, we cling onto them so tightly because we believe that if I just let go of this bunny a little bit, he'll hop away. I'll lose him forever. But what we actually come to realize is that the tighter that we hug onto these things that we desire so deeply, that's the moment that we kill them. That's the moment that we lose them. Only when you can loosen up your grips and let the bunny breathe, right? Let that symbol of love and happiness and fulfillment breathe. That's when you can have it, and that's when you can have the thing that you've always wanted. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a little story of the bunny. Anywho, how have you changed in the past 5 years? What do you think are your biggest changing points in the past 5 years? Mind you, 5 years ago you were 15 years old?
Yeah. 15 years old. What is that?
You would have been just entering into high school.
Like grade 9, 10?
Grade 9, 10. Obviously, a lot more purpose, right? I have a lot more of an idea of what I want to do. Back then, I thought I was going to be an engineer like my dad. Then I took physics 20. Found out that wasn't for me. I think being more aware of other people and respecting their time, because when you're young, you don't realize that people's time is just as valuable as your time, right? And so, whether it be, I feel like this is especially with teachers. I feel like as students, we waste a lot of our teachers' times. For example, if we don't understand something, we'll be like, oh, we don't understand this. And you'll say the whole chapter. You'll be like, I just don't understand this chapter. I don't understand what you said yesterday. Right. And so, but I think we talked about this last last week. But I think just respecting other people's time is something that I've learned a lot more, is when you're doing something with someone, treat their time as just like you would treat your own time. Mm-hmm. And so, I've put that in with my family, my friends, right? And I think those are two different things. Having purpose. I'm sure there's more, but I need to. I think just make sure you have a reason for what you're doing, mm-hmm. and value other people's time.
So we talked about how you've changed in the past 5 years. Where do you see yourself in 5 years from now? I know we've kind of touched on it a bit, but
where I see myself, I'd ideally like to still be a paramedic. Mm-hmm. I want to be a paramedic for at least 8 to 10 years. Most people only do it for 5 years and then they move on. Well, I want to do it for a bit longer than the average person. And also, I wanna be doing some sort of charity work that's giving back and more on the ground. Mm-hmm. Whether that's be building, helping build wells or whatever. And so, I've got some goals that I'm working towards that.
Yeah.
And maybe work with orphanages or whatever. But that's kind of where I want my life to be in a few years from now. Kind of helping my community here and trying to help communities abroad. Okay. With who aren't as lucky or as fortunate with the things that we have. But yeah.
Why is it orphanages?
Why is it orphanages?
Yeah. Because you have a certain affinity toward to volunteer in kids, orphanages, why?
But the thing is, orphans, they don't have anyone else. And a support worker can never replace a parent or the love that a parent will give, right? You're only, right? So even if in an orphanage, right, there's one teacher for 12 kids or whatever, right? Or it's probably even way bigger of a ratio for that. And so they're just kids that need love, man. And, I remember when I first started my paramedic journey, I was told that if you want to stay sane and if you don't want to go crazy, work with kids. Because kids, like, restore your faith in humanity, kind of. And, like, when you work with kids, it, like, helps you, like, realize, like, as a paramedic, you're dealing with trauma, stress, death, even at some points, right? But when you work with kids, it's kind of the opposite of all those things, right? Kids are, bundles of joy. They'll just make your day better. Like, like, obviously, like, there's some kids that just piss you off, right? But like the average kid, like younger kids, right? If you get to know them and they respect you and you respect them, then you're just gonna have a good time. And that's the main reason. Like, the two main reasons are they don't have anyone else, like, especially with orphans. And even with kids, they just want attention and they need someone to give them that. And also, it'll be like a way to deal with stress going forward. But yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so we're going to throw a bit of a situation at you, right? So, you've gone on hikes before. When you go on a hike, there are certain things on hikes that, excuse me, that help us on those hikes. You bring hiking boots, you bring hiking sticks, a couple snacks. These things help you get to the top, right? They make your journey more enjoyable. They make your journey a little bit easier. Now, let's say that this hike is your life. And the end of the hike, the peak of your summit, is the peak of your accomplishments, your passions. You've done everything that you wanted to do, in this life. What are some things that you would tell people to bring with them? What are those tools that you would tell them, hey, this is going to help you on your hike?
There's a bunch of things, but I'm going to say two main things. And I feel like if you have these two things in your life will be a lot better. And the two things are, first, like a journal and a pen. And it doesn't really have to be for journaling. It's just to write down your thoughts. Because I feel like we have so many thoughts throughout the day. Like, I want to do this. Or it can be on your iPad. Just write down your thoughts and maybe how you feel. Or if there's something you want to do, like a to-do list, right? Because sometimes we have so many things going on in our head that you need an outlet to record those things. I'm not saying record everything. It's just the things that you want to do or how you're feeling. Those things need to be recorded, right? So you can look back on them. Because with the hustle and bustle of life, like, you'll just keep thinking and going throughout the day, and you'll just get stuck in, like, this mundane like, thought cycle that just keeps going and going. Also, another thing was a schedule. So even when people are climbing a mountain, right, they don't just climb until they can't climb anymore. They have base camps, right?
Yeah.
And they have schedules. It's like, okay, day one, however long they'll hike it, like if it's a multi-day hike, right?
Yeah.
Or if you're climbing a mountain, right? If you're doing all these things, you have a schedule, and so you need to plan out your life. And so I think the two main things would be something as an outlet for your thoughts and something for your actions, which is a schedule, right? So, and you don't have to, like, your schedule doesn't have to be super detailed, like every 5 minutes or every half an hour, even every hour, right? Just put down, it can be a to-do list. Like, I need to get these things done today and then move on with your life. But yeah, those are two things I would say.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on to our podcast today and giving us insights into your history and your past and everything that you kind of done. Really appreciate it. I think you've given us a couple of things to think about, especially with feelings and how you want to feel.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, some super unique things that most people wouldn't even think about doing, like writing down what they actually want, what they feel before they choose what path they want to go down, right? Like,
thank you guys so much for tuning in to this episode of Blurred Summits. Be sure to follow Immad on all of his social medias. Be sure to follow Blurred Summits on Instagram and TikTok for daily content. You can catch the full video podcast on YouTube, and you can catch the full audio podcast out on all platforms. Thank you guys so much.